welcome back to Queen Citizens, where I explore critical issues at the intersection of girls' education and health equity through personal narratives and shared experiences. I'm Odette, your host and founder of Her Authentic Crown. I'll include a link to my website and socials in the description box. Today marks the fourth episode of Heroes Revisiting Their Stories. This is a series where I will delve into real life stories of girls. I believe these stories transcend borders and they do truly shine a light on public health. By the way, if you just stumbled on this podcast, I recommend listening to the previous recordings. A long time ago, I saw my younger sister watching a YouTube channel called Story Booth. It fascinated me because it allowed individuals to share their stories and life lessons. Story Booth, for those unfamiliar, transforms raw recordings into animated stories. So they don't use any voice actors. And I started watching this channel myself, and one particular story, however, struck a chord. A girl was sharing a story about how a school shooter killed her friend, and she was sobbing throughout the recording, so it was really sad. And this reminds me of the first two episodes of this series. So you have children that go to school to learn, but then they end up getting killed. However, in those first two episodes, it was based in they were based in two countries that were called developing countries. So I was focusing more on global south. This time I'm focusing on the US in particular, so I'm focusing on global north. So let's get into this. So when it comes to gun violence, there can be a public health approach. So in public health, we talk about risk factors and protective factors. So risk factors meaning what would increase the chances of gun violence. So simply having a gun in one's home doubles the chance of dying by homicide, and it also increases the chance of suicide death by over threefold. So these teenagers, they know where the gun is. They know how to also use a gun because sometimes they're taught how to use a gun. When it comes to protective factors, this is opposite from risk factors. So in other words, what would prevent gun violence? So somebody that is growing up in a good home, a good community where there's lots of economic opportunities, there's no exposure to gangs and violence, this can help prevent any type of gun violence. Now, I want to read some more statistics here, particularly on domestic violence. So, more than half of female intimate partner homicides are committed with a gun. There are approximately 4.5 million women in America who have been threatened with a gun, and almost 1 million women who have been shot or shot at by an intimate partner. A woman is 5 times more likely to be murdered by her abuser that has access to a gun. Now, why am I sharing these very discouraging and also very scary statistics with you? So, with Her Authentic Crown, one thing I want to do is I don't want to scare women and girls. However, I do want there to be resources for girls so that way we can prevent domestic violence because it's just so common. It's just too common. And I think teenage girls should be taught about healthy relationships and boundaries in their health classes and career and life management courses. I also think that schools need to invite guest speakers to speak on this topic because when I was in school, we talked a lot about drinking and driving, which was good, but nobody talked about abuse. We talked about suicide and cyberbullying, which is good, but I would like to request that schools also talk about knowing the signs and knowing when you shouldn't really go out with certain people. So I didn't mean to end off with a very negative note, but I hope I didn't scare you. Stay with me. I want to thank you so much for joining me on Queen Citizens and sticking it through, because this is the longest recording so far. If you've encountered impactful stories that have shaped your perspective on health and safety, share them with me on social media. Remember, every story contributes to a richer understanding of the world we live in. So until next time, hey, bye.